I always believed I understood Emily. She's been my wife for 8 years, and in that time I'd watched her joke, glow, and light up every space she walked into. People called her captivating. I thought of her as my partner, the person I shared a life with. I never really wondered how others saw her. I didn't worry about how her smile could catch someone's attention or how certain coworkers hovered a little too long. That confidence of hers. I admired it, even loved it. It was the night of the annual company gala, and for once I wasn't dreading it. I'm not usually a fan of big events. Give me a quiet meal or a movie at home any day, but Emily had insisted. She wore a deep green dress that somehow made her look graceful and mischievous at the same time. I held her hand as we walked in, feeling an odd mix of pride and nerves. The music was lively, almost intoxicating. Couples spun across the floor, laughter drifting above the rhythm. Emily tugged me toward the center, accusing me of being too stiff to be a bystander. I let her pull me in, smiling, and for a moment everything felt simple. Then a tall man in a tailored suit walked up. Spencer, one of the project managers. I recognized him but had barely spoken to him before. He smiled at Emily, complimented her dress, and that tiny spark of unease flickered in my chest. Before I could say anything, he offered his hand. Emily paused, then returned the gesture with a polite smile and took a small step toward him. Harmless, I told myself. It was just a dance, at a crowded event. But then I noticed someone else. Ryan, Spencer's colleague. Younger, lean, confidently charming. He slipped into the conversation, leaned slightly toward Emily, and whispered something. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw her reaction. She laughed, not her relaxed, warm laugh, but a surprised, nervous one. The kind that comes with a jolt of adrenaline. His fingers brushed against hers, light, inviting. I caught him saying, "If you're free, come with me." My stomach clenched. Emily's eyes widened, realization hitting her all at once, and she stepped back like she'd suddenly remembered something pressing. Her smile faltered. She grabbed my arm. Let's go sit for a minute, she said, her voice a little too sharp, too high. I guided her toward a quiet corner near the refreshments, trying to keep my expression steady despite the tightness in my chest. You okay? I asked, aiming for casual but knowing I missed the mark. She shook her head slightly, let out an uneasy laugh, and tried to wave it off. But I'd seen the tremor in her hand as she reached for a glass of water. We sat there without speaking, and my mind wandered back over all the years I'd trusted her without a second thought. From everyday routines to the biggest decisions of our lives. And now, in this loud, fluorescent ballroom, I realized that trust could feel unexpectedly delicate. Emily glanced across the room at Spencer and Ryan. They were laughing, leaning in close to one another. And for a moment, that old fear tugged at me, the fear of losing her. Not because she wanted someone else, but because people sometimes crave attention or excitement without realizing it. She began, fingers twisting nervously. It's nothing. I just wasn't expecting that. But the tension was there, subtle hesitations, the way she clutched my hand even as she tried to distance herself from whatever had just happened. Confusing, messy, human. I let the music fill the silence for a moment before I said quietly, "Do you want to talk about it?" She looked up at me with a mix of fear, guilt, and relief. Relief that I wasn't exploding or shutting down. I didn't know what to do, she admitted. He's always been bold. I panicked. That's all. That word lingered with me. Panic. Not longing. Not interest. Just a startled, overwhelmed response to an unexpected moment. Still, something about seeing her hesitate, even briefly, unsettled me. Not anger. Just an awareness that even strong relationships can wobble. The music blurred into the background as my heartbeat took its place. Her words hung between us, delicate and uncertain. I squeezed her hand gently, grounding both of us. She looked at me carefully, as if trying to decide whether I would condemn her or simply hear her. I just wasn't ready for that, she whispered again. I froze. I nodded slowly, digesting what she'd said. I understood it for what it truly was, panic. Nothing more. Not flirtation, not betrayal. Just a brief moment where her composure slipped. Yet the weight of it settled on me, not as anger, but as a reminder that even those we trust most can catch us off guard. And those little shocks, harmless as they seem, can still shake something inside you. Across the room, Spencer was in the middle of an enthusiastic conversation, completely unaware of everything. Ryan, on the other hand, was laughing with a kind of effortless charm, as if earning a sliver of her attention had been some kind of victory. Watching them, something shifted within me. Not jealousy, not insecurity, just a sudden, sharp clarity. I leaned closer to Emily. "Hey," I whispered. "No matter what happens, we face it together. You and me, always, all right." Her eyes shimmered, catching the light like tiny drops of dew. She nodded, squeezing my hand. "Right," she breathed, her voice threaded with relief, gratitude, and the faintest trace of fear, like someone balancing carefully on a rope suspended over murmuring doubts. We stayed that way for a while, letting the room continue its lively spin while we stayed anchored in our own little space. Then she finally let out a soft, genuine laugh, the real one, and said, "I think I need a moment. Just to breathe." I didn't question her. I watched as she slipped through the crowd, passing Spencer and Ryan, passing the tables stacked with hors d'oeuvres and champagne flutes, until she found a quiet spot near an exit. She leaned against the wall, forehead resting gently against it, taking slow, uneven breaths. That's when it occurred to me. This wasn't about dancing. It wasn't truly about Spencer or Ryan either. It was about us, about trust, the invisible lines that tie two people together, and the tiny vibrations that make you wonder whether they can hold. I joined her, standing beside her without touching her, simply present. "It's okay to feel panicked," I said softly. "It doesn't make you weak. It just means you're human." Some of the tension in her shoulders loosened. "I know. I hate that it scared me. I hate that for a second, I didn't think of us." "You did think of us," I said gently. "That's why you walked away. That's why you didn't pretend everything was fine. You remembered where your heart is." We stood there for a long moment, letting the distant laughter and music fade into the background. And I realized clarity isn't about being flawless or never slipping up. It's about recognizing what matters, acknowledging fear when it shows up, and making the choice, again and again, to stay connected. Eventually Emily turned to me, her gaze softer, steadier. "I'm sorry I panicked," she whispered. "And I'm sorry if I startled you." I smiled, small but sincere. "You startled me because I care," I said. "And because you reminded me that what we have matters to me more than I admit out loud." She reached for my hand again, this time with certainty. "I needed you to notice," she said quietly. "And you did." In that simple exchange, something settled inside me. Love isn't without bumps or sharp edges. It isn't untouched by fear or doubt. But real love persists in the small acts, being patient instead of hurt, choosing compassion over anger, holding steady when the other person trembles. By the end of the night, I wasn't just relieved. I was thankful. Thankful that we'd weathered a small storm without damaging each other, without harsh words or cracks in the trust between us. Those threads had quivered, yes, but they'd held. Outside in the cool night air, I squeezed her hand, quiet reassurance passing between us. The strongest love isn't the one that never faces trouble. It's the one that survives it. Emily looked up at me with a playful glint. "Next time," she teased, "you dance with me first." I laughed, really laughed, because right then, nothing else mattered. Not Spencer, not Ryan, not the brief panic. What mattered was us. And somehow, despite every fragile moment, we were still choosing each other. Stronger than before, and more aware of how precious that choice really is.